What is going on, guys? It is your boy Dante here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. First and foremost, just want to apologize for the lack of content coming out on my side here.
You suck!
Been a little bit preoccupied working on some loops and samples for some artists these last few weeks, and had to keep it a little bit under the wraps. But now that that's out of the way, we are going to be circling back to working on some more guitar covers and content for you guys. So for those who don't know, I recently got a new song placement out on Homixide Gang's Homixide Lifestyle 2 on the song Going On with these fantastic producers along with me. I've been getting a lot of DMs from you guys asking to go into further detail regarding how we played some of the riffs on this song, how we built some of the guitar tones and the presets. So I figured I would make a breakdown of one of the lead guitars for you guys, going over how to play it, how to build the tone, so you guys can either play along or you can use some of these applications for writing your own music and go from there. All right, so I figured before we jump into, you know, the tone building and how to play some of these riffs on the song here, let me go ahead and isolate the guitar we're going to be focusing on today so you kind of have some context on what to expect. If I play the riff here at the beginning of this section of the song, this guitar right here is what we're going to be working on. Yeah, that one, that really, you know, fun, very, you know, bright, kind of 1980s thrasher, hair metal sort of vibe. I figured that's kind of what you guys are looking for, some sort of lead guitar from this song. So why don't we rebuild the tone here, and I'll show you guys exactly how to play it as well. All right, so next, let's go over all the plugins and VSTs that we used for this preset. To start off, we are going to be using an absolute goated guitar simulator plugin, Guitar Rig 6. It's one of my go-tos for amp sims for digital VSTs. I'm sure if you're watching my videos, you probably have this plugin. Keep using it. For this preset, I used a preset in Guitar Rig that comes stock. It's called Solo Breather. So I would check that one out if you guys haven't yet. I love the psych delay and the reverb that it comes with. I think I gave it a little bit more of a room sound on the cabinet here. I don't remember if it's all the way facing the cabinet, but I like a little bit more of a room, so I did adjust that here on the cabinet for the amp. Definitely got to use this one if you're a guitarist and are using digital sims. After that, we are just going to be using a stock Fruity Parametric EQ2. I cut out a little bit more low end than I usually do here. Looks like it's anything below 500 hertz is basically out. Anything above, right around, looks like 6,000 hertz above that is basically out. I think my reasoning here was to, on the low side, make as much room for the 808 and kick and rhythm guitars, as you know, so they don't compete with the lead guitar there. I wanted the lead guitar to kind of, you know, sit on the top and resonate with the sparkle a little bit more, as opposed to competing on the lower end. So I cut out basically as much as I could, and then I cut out some highs to make some room for like the hi-hats and snares, so it wasn't competing on the high end too much either. So you know, kind of just normal guitar EQing here, but you guys should all have this if you have FL. Next plugin I used was called CLA Guitar Stereo. It's a Waves plugin. I use it a lot for my presets. I kept the bass, treble, and compression all at just the default 0, kept the reverb and delay all the way down because we're already getting that from the Guitar Rig preset, so there's no need to have it again, and kept the pitch the same. I really like this plugin. It just kind of adds more life, breathes a little bit more life into the guitar, adds a little bit more compression, makes it a little bit louder. I'm a big fan of it. I would definitely check it out if you haven't looked at this one already. And finally, the GOAT, OTT. It sounds amazing. You know, it's an awesome compressor, and it's free.
That's why he's the GOAT!
I kept the depth down about 28%, so there's a lot of control. You know, it's not too overwhelming of a plugin here. Added a little bit of shine and sparkle with the high end, and a little bit more outgain. Looks like 1.3 extra dB there, but not a huge difference. Just something to add some more compression and you know, shine and sparkle to the sound to finish it off. The nice thing about doing a digital setup is you don't need a ton of equipment. For this loop, we used my Focusrite interface box here to have the guitar routed into the interface and then going into the PC to record. Pretty simple setup there. This is like a $200 interface, not too expensive. And for the guitar that we used, we are using my beautiful Schecter Diamond Series 7-string Hellraiser, an awesome heavy thrash metal guitar. I use this guitar all the time for anything heavy metal, anything Homixide Gang related, you know, harder, heavier rock loops. This is one of my go-tos. I haven't showed it off too much in my guitar cover videos. You're probably much more familiar with my SG, another one of my go-to guitars, but for this loop we used my 7-string Schecter Diamond Series Hellraiser. Next we're going to be going over the riff and some of the melodies of the lead itself, so just use the preset that we just built with those plugins we put together and it should sound exactly like this. One important thing about this riff is that my guitar was tuned down to D standard in order to play this part, so usually your guitar is going to be in E standard, E, A, D, G, B, E for the letter names on each string. In our case, it's going to be D, G, C, F, A, D. So we're going to be tuning all the strings a whole step down. You could do it in E standard. You'll just need to transpose everything I'm going to go over down 2 frets, and it should sound the same. Just to start off, this whole melody lead guitar part, it's all pretty much based around one scale, that being the pentatonic minor, and you're going to be playing it along the 13th fret as your key and reference point there. For those who aren't familiar with the scale, basically it's just played like this. 90% of what we're playing here is all going to be based on this scale, so we're just going to be using different variations and shreds, all in this same scale position for the most part. All right, starting out with the first part of the riff, pretty simple here. We're just going to be doing a 2-bar slide with the top 2 strings, B and E string, from the 11th fret to the 13th fret. Repeating the same pattern from the 9th to the 11th. From here, again, pretty simple. We're just going to be playing 14 then 13 on the B string. Doing kind of a hammer-on pull-off between 12, 13, and then 12 again on the G string. Finishing off with a slide from the 13th all the way to the 15th on the D string. So all together so far it's going to sound like. All right, once we complete that first section, we are once again going to hit that barred slide from the 11th to the 13th. After that, we're going to be hitting a pretty monstrous walk down on this pentatonic scale. It's going to sound a little something like this. It's a lot easier to play than it looks. All we're going to be doing is kind of a hammer-on pull-off style on the top string, 13th and 16th fret. Kind of doing the inverse order there next on the next string down on the B, playing 16 and then pulling off to 13 and back to 16. Doing the same kind of lick here again, now down to the G string. Then we're going to be doing an upwards bend. Back down. From here, we're going to be hitting the similar shape, hammer on pull off on 13 and 15 on the G string, which then walks down into the inverse on the D string. Once we're done there, we're just going to be repeating the and finishing on the 15th on the D string. So once you put all those elements together, it should sound something like this. It was something along those lines. I don't know if I'm playing it exactly correctly, but it was just a big pentatonic scale walk down. As long as you guys can play something along those lines, should sound pretty cool for kind of ending lick there. All right, so if we put all these components together for the first half, the riff should sound something like this. All right, once we enter the second half of this guitar section here, we're going to be starting with a pretty big hammer-on and pull-off section on the 13th and the 16th frets of the high E string. Should sound like this. I'm just keeping my index finger pressed firmly against the 13th fret and just flicking my ring finger on the 16th as quick as I can to kind of create that Eddie Van Halen style. But once we do that longer shred, I think it's for a bar, you're going to be jumping up from the 16th to the 18th, doing that same hammer-on pull-off flick between 16 and 18, jump into the 20th, sliding back down to 18, 16, doing the same hammer-on pull-off on the B string for the 16th and 18th. Once again, jumping to 16 and 18 again on the E string. Jumping up to 20 one more time. And then doing a final hammer-on pull-off between 16 and 18 again on the E string. And then immediately after playing that box position one more time, I'm hitting a bend all the way down here at the 15th fret on the G string, hitting that same box hammer-on position, and finishing on 15 on the D string. But if I were to kind of try to slow this down and play it so you can hear it and see it a little bit slower and have a little bit more time to analyze the lick, basically we're just going to sound something like this. I think in my opinion, the hardest part of this riff to play is definitely the transition from the higher box positions on the 16, 18, and 20th fret, and then jumping all the way back to our pentatonic position for that bend on the G string there when we hit the... I still struggle with that transition when it's at the normal speed. I think it's a really good exercise for you guys to practice because not only is it a pretty big string jump from the high E to the G, it's also a pretty sizable distance to jump on the guitar from 16, 18, and 20 frets all the way back to 13 and 15. So if I were you, I would definitely add this to my practice schedule, this riff here, for just getting better at trying to reach those transitions and jumps between strings and large frets in such a specific amount of time.
Practice makes perfect.
All right, you guys are almost there. We are almost all the way through this part. The final section is very easy. All we're going to be doing is playing the 9th and 11th on the B string for that classic hammer-on pull-off sound. From here, we're going to be sliding up to the 14th fret on the B string, hitting it 2 times, and then doing a bend, and then pulling it back down just like that. And then I like to slide out of it so it sounds really cool and dramatic at the end. So just as a recap for you guys, if we were to play the second half only of what we just went over along with the song, it should sound something like this. All right, so now that we have the guitar part itself recorded, we're just going to add it to the timeline in FL, route it to its own mixer, and then from there, the only thing that I added on was a FabFilter Pro Q3. I just felt like the highs on the guitar were a little too aggressive, right around the 3500 hertz mark, so I added a small dip here just to help tame those out so it wasn't competing too much with some of the other instruments and layers that were within the loop. So when we play it all in context, sounds a little bit more layered, a little bit more balanced and even with some of the other elements here in the song. And that's about it, guys. Not a ton of legwork on this one. This is How You Play Going On by Homixide Gang on their new album, Homixide Lifestyle 2. I really appreciate you guys tuning in and watching this video all the way through with me here. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel out a ton, so you know I really appreciate it. If you guys enjoyed this type of video and you want to see more breakdowns of riff writing and tone building for guitars and just guitar covers overall, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. I have a ton more videos on the way, so stay tuned and I will catch you guys on the next one.